What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. What we're going to be doing today finally is installing the ported upper and lower intake manifold. Lorenzo just got here, so we popped up the hood and we're going to let the car cool down for a little bit. I know we are going to lose a little bit of antifreeze or coolant, just because you know, we are going to have to, I think, break one line for sure. So we'll lose some coolant there. So we're going to go ahead and go to the auto store while the car is cooling and get some antifreeze, and then hopefully by the time we get back, it'll be cool enough for us to go ahead and start taking it apart. Okay, guys, we're back from the store. We just got the antifreeze. We're not going to go over the removal of the upper intake, since we did that on the video where we took out the spark plug. So I'll link that in the description if you wanted to get a more detailed look at that. What we will do is, once we have that off, once we start with the lower part, which is lower intake manifold, that's when we'll start getting into the specifics. Now that we have the upper manifold removed, I'm just going to point out some of the connection points or hoses that we got to either release or loosen to get the lower manifold off. We have to pull back this housing to start off with. I mean, we won't start with that necessarily, but that definitely has to come off. Okay, so there's four bolts. There's one here, this one here, and then there's some that are kind of hidden, or a couple. There's this one here that you have to loosen or break off. This one here. And then there's another one down here just underneath where the thermostat housing is. There's that one there, so that'll be the fourth one. So we'll have to break those off to be able to pull this back to slide that part of the intake manifold off. And then there's I think a total of 4 bolts on this side that hold the manifold on, which is, there's 1, 2, 3, and then there's a fourth one right here. Not sure if that's coming through on the camera. My finger's right on top of it. There's a fourth one, and then it's the same on the opposite side. So a total of 8 as far as those go. And then there are a couple of bolts back here in the very back. So there's one of the bolts right there, and then the other bolt is right there. And then we have a line that is the coolant line. That's this one right here. A couple of prongs that you can see there. You just squeeze those together and then pull this line back, and that's where we're going to lose some of that coolant that I was talking about earlier, I think. Oh, then we have to take off the fuel injectors. So you have some red tabs here. You'll just pull those back and then they should come out. And then we have a fuel line here. Start by taking the fuel, those rails off, or those bolts that are in there. So it takes 8mm, get the extension. Oh, these are in the socket, yeah. All right, so we've already removed the screws, the 8 screws that hold the lower manifold down, and now we're going to just break the 2 back ones that we showed you earlier.
Put the rag back there so I can talk about that. So we put a rag here. There's might be a little bit of fuel that comes out of there. So again, you just got to push this part down, and it'll kind of release the coupler inside there, and then you can pull the line off of this hose. Okay, so now we're gonna remove or disconnect the injectors. So these have a clip similar to the ones that we showed you last time on the spark plugs, like this one here. You just kind of pull it up this way, like that. So that's the way these work as well. So we're just gonna pull those up. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is pull off the injector connections, fuel injector connections. We've already pulled these little tabs up, the little red tabs, and so now we're just gonna pull those off. See where I hooked it?
I wanted to mention one thing when it comes to unplugging these connections for the fuel injectors. A tool like this is actually a tool for taking apart interior parts to a car, plastics, that kind of thing. With this, I mean, prior to this, we struggled for a long time. We tried our fingers, we tried other makeshift tools, but none of that was working. And I had some of these, but I couldn't find them. I finally dropped what I was doing, went back and looked for them. But this thing, I mean, I don't know if we'd have gotten it off. I mean, some were easier than others, but depending on how long you've had the car, I mean, everything can seize up a little different, and so they might be on there a lot tighter than something else. So for us, this car is about a 6-year-old car. They were on there really hard, and until we got this hook tool, we didn't have any success. We were sitting there for about an hour trying to get those clips off, or those connections off. So this really helped us a lot. Once we got this, once I found this tool, took about 5 minutes. We got them all out. So they were still a little bit tricky, but this really helped out. I mean, without this, I think we'd still be there trying to figure out, or scratch our head how to try to figure out how we're going to get those off. But
when we use this tool here, we hook. So this is the way it's seated. And we grabbed it kind of in this area here, right? And then we put tension on this side to make sure it came straight up, and then we were able to just pull up. That's what really helped us get these off, because like I said, ours were seized on there pretty hard. We couldn't take them off with just our hands. We tried to use other tools and they weren't working, but this tool helped out really good. And so, like I said, they're seated down like this. We put some tension on the other side with our finger to make sure it was fired up, and then we hooked it underneath here. You know, it's just kind of an empty cavity right here, so it doesn't damage anything. So we got the hook in there and then pulled out, you know, give it a good pull, and came right up. So that, you know, that's something to consider if you're having trouble getting these off. So what we're going to do now, we have all that off. We're finally going to take off this assembly, or this housing, those couple of bolts that I talked about earlier, and then we can slide that off from this part of the manifold, and then we should be able to just pick it right back up, or pick it right up. All right. feel underneath the housing, all the way toward the block. This is the bolt that's kind of hidden. You just kind of have to feel for it. It's underneath, like right there where the thermostat housing is. It's just right underneath there. Okay. Good. Okay guys, so even with it loose, we're still having trouble getting some leverage back here. And this hose right here, at this point, it rotates, so we're able to get the manifold off or out enough that we can get it out here, so we can get better leverage on this clip. Okay. First, we're going to take off the fuel rail and the injectors, transfer them to the new manifold, and then the kit came with gaskets. So the kit comes with all the gaskets for the upper and lower manifolds. We're going to transfer the rail and the injectors first, and then we'll flip it upside down and then install the gaskets. So there's 4 screws, 8mm. The high so in order to get these the fuel rail off, separated from the injectors, they have these clips here, and they're seated pretty much like this, and you just have to put a screwdriver or a flathead in the back, and then just pull back, and it'll slide it off of that sleeve right there. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Just put it, yeah, just like that. Real easy. Slides right off. So we did, that's 3 of them. Make sure you hold on to these because we're going to reuse these, and then we're going to do the other stuff. Yeah. Right. Okay guys, like once we get those clips off, you really have to put a lot of pressure to pull this up. It's on there pretty tight, but you can see I've got them loosened now, but it just takes a little bit of elbow grease just to kind of give it a good push, and then it'll separate from the injector. The fuel rail will separate from the injector. A little bit of fuel still left in there. A lot of fuel. This is why it's good to separate this or take it out of the car, the entire thing together, because I'm making a mess on this table out in my driveway, but at least it's not in the engine bay. As long as you dry it up, I guess it'd be okay. I don't know, you'd have to really do a good cleaning inside the engine bay, but you know, it's it does leave a pretty good mess.
Money coming, money go. I've been at it on the low. Trapping out of where I live. I can see the niggas doing this. We talking place and maybe seeing you. Pull up on you, let me score.
So when I separated the fuel rail, some of the injectors stayed in the manifold still, so I'm just going to pull those out.
I'm on my shine. Moonshine, sipping moonshine to the new sky. Say it's toasted and be
Okay, so as you can see, some of the, or only 2 of the injectors came out with the fuel rail. I pulled the rest of them out by hand. I'll give the tips of the injectors a little clean with some alcohol, just to make sure that there's nothing, no contaminants in there before I put them back on. So what Lorenzo's doing here is those blue washers with gaskets. They didn't come out when I separated the fuel rail from the manifold. He's just putting those back on and then seating the fuel injectors back into the housing.
Like it's 10 of me. Sauce drip, I got the recipe. And you can find me where that pressure be. Evasion, I've been levitated in the preparation, I've been meditating.
Okay, so now we have the fuel rail and the injectors into made it to the new ported lower intake.
Quick, but never let go of this here. I put all of that in my rip. Blue tint papers, blowing vapors, wouldn't trade this. Long hair killer in my villa, bitch, I made it. Used to play to play, now I think we made it.
Lorenzo's just adding the clips that we removed earlier.
Yeah.
You just plug it in. Okay, it's all set. We've taken everything from the old manifold, put it on the new one, and we just we're ready to put it back on the block. Oh man. On second thought, we need to do the gaskets too, so we're going to flip it upside down now and add the new gaskets. So we could probably reuse these. These look like they're in really good shape. You know, they're not dried up or anything. But we're going to go ahead and just use the gaskets that came with the ported intake. So we're starting off fresh and brand new. And also, there's some gaskets that belong here. They actually stayed on the motor. You can see there, they're still set. They're still sitting there. So we're going to take those off and then use the new ones also. Just want to make sure, just wanted to call attention to that. And before we put it back on, we got a rag here, but we're going to give this a little bit of a wipe down, just to make sure it's nice and clean. We get a good seal. So you can see this intake manifold already has those gaskets that I just showed you. They're already in there. We're going to wipe these nice and clean. We want to make sure we get it seated pretty well. And then it's pretty much just kind of going in reverse and putting everything back together. Okay, so what Lorenzo's doing is just kind of tucking out some of the connectors for the
fuel injectors. Just trying to get some things out of the way so we can set it on there. And we're basically going to go in the reverse order that we did to take it off. So we're going to start with that hose, and we're going to set it in there. Start with that hose in the very back. I think next we'll do the bolts, and then we'll do the connections for the fuel injectors, and then we'll move up here near the thermostat and get that pushed on there, and then bolt that down. And then I think that should be it. And then we can move into just plugging the upper manifold on.
Okay, that's on. All right.
One thing we forgot to add was the screws that bolt the fuel rail down to the manifold. Well, we had it out, but it's just as easy. We can do it here right now. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention is all the bolts that we're gonna crank down here, the manifold to the block. We're gonna tighten those at about 10 to 12 pounds, inch pounds. There's not really any literature or anything on the internet, at least that I could find, that gives you any torque specifications for how to how to tighten those down. But there is for the upper manifold, and the bolts for that I think are the tighten down for those bolts for the upper manifold are 8 foot-pounds roughly. I'm sorry, 8 inch pounds. And so we're gonna go with 10, 12. That should be fine for this. I don't think we'll have any problems. So that's what we're gonna use, is 10 to 12 pounds of 10 to 12 inch pounds. Sorry about that. Okay, so those are the 4 bolts that attach the fuel rail to the manifold. Again, we forgot to put those on when we had the manifold out. Now we're going to add the screws that attach the manifold to the block. So we're ready to bolt these down. We got them seated all the way down without actually torquing them. But as I mentioned previously, we're going to torque them down to about 10, 12 pounds. And then the way we're going to torque them is we're going to start in the middle, so the middle screws, and then work our way front to back or out, right? So from the middle out. So we'll torque this one here, and then kind of go in a crisscross pattern, torque that one down, and torque this one down, and then that one, and then we'll move to the outside kind of in an X, right? So we're going to be torquing basically from the inside out, but like kind of in an X pattern. So if we do need to take this off to reuse it on the new one, and of course we still have the throttle body connected to this one, so we'll swap it out here in a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that everything else is the same though we did in the last video, but you want to make sure you grab this piece right here to swap it out into the new intake manifold. Lessons you learn one at a time. All right, guys. So this screw, the one that comes completely out, kind of getting ahead of myself. Sometimes it's been a long day, but that so obviously we'll take that from the old intake and then pop it in right there. So. All right, guys, there it is. It took us a while, but so this is the Auto Mafia Racing upper and lower ported intake manifolds. We heard a lot of good things about those. You know, you should visit their channel. They're doing a lot of really good things with V6 Mustangs, but they have a good reputation as far as these go. So there's no core or anything to swap out. They make the ported upper and lowers out of brand new OEM upper and lower Ford intake manifolds. So it's already set. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this thing for a spin, just to make sure it's running okay. Okay, guys, so we just topped off the car with more coolant. We're going to take that out for a ride. I'm beat. Thank you guys if you watched all the way to the end. We appreciate you watching. So don't forget to like, subscribe. If you like the content, share it with your friends. We want to grow the channel as much as possible. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Just kidding, guys. You thought I was going to leave it at that. So it's another day. The upper and lower intakes have been installed. So I guess the plan that we've had for the longest, probably once we got the upper and lower, is that we're going to get the car dyno tuned. So we'll get that doing as soon as we can. Also, what I'm going to be doing one of the upcoming videos is kind of a parts list rundown, everything that's on the car, what we've done to it to date, the price of what everything's cost. And if I can remember, I'll try to do the labor. We've tried to do most of it ourselves. I think we've done, about 95% of it. So there's not a whole lot of labor cost in that, but it's done. I mean, the car, it feels, the throttle response feels considerably better, but at the same time, until it gets tuned and we get all that timing right, it's just not going to be where it needs to be at. So I'm pretty confident it'll put up some pretty decent numbers for a naturally aspirated car. So yeah, look for those videos. The reason why I didn't finish it up the other night was because the video, it was our first time doing the upper and lower. The upper, since we had done it in the last video for the spark plugs, we got that on and off, and when we reinstalled it, I'm talking less than 5 minutes. I mean, the first time, obviously, when we did it for the spark plugs, it took us a little while. We'd never done it before. And then, so when we removed it and then obviously put it back on to get to the lower intake and of course replace them, it was really fast. But the lower one took us a real long time just because we're going really slow, very methodical, but at the same time, what we're trying to avoid doing, and I know because I've done this before, you get in a hurry and then you break a line or a fitting or something like that, and then you got to wait till the next day and see if auto parts store can even get it to you, maybe same day or overnight or something like that. And this is Lorenzo's only car, so I couldn't leave him on foot, you know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that we were gonna start that same day, finish that same day. The only thing is I would have probably started it earlier in the day so we could kind of finish it up not so late, but all in all, I mean, it came out really good. Everything is you know, working properly. You know, like I said, next thing is a dyno tune, and then the part or parts list rundown. I also have some news regarding the 370Z in one of the upcoming videos for some things that are coming for that. And also have an update regarding the Harley Davidson. Also, I've actually been meaning to do that for a long time, so I'm gonna have an update on the Harley Davidson. So a lot of good things to come. I really appreciate you guys sticking around for these videos. I know sometimes they're kind of long. You know, sometimes we don't intend to do like a how-to, but you know, we're figuring like, well, since we're at it and we're filming it, you know, it does take a little bit longer to kind of, you know, film these things and, you know, get the right angles and right lighting or whatever. So that takes a little bit more consideration and time. So it takes a little bit longer, but I'm not saying every video is going to be exactly a how-to, but you know, for stuff like this, you know, we did it the best we could. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit from it, or it'll help you with your installation if you decide to go upper and lower intake manifold route, or a swap anyways. And so I really appreciate you guys watching. If you got everybody that subscribed, I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Don't forget about that $200 Amazon gift card that we're doing at 1,000 subscribers. So you got to make sure you're dropping comments. You know, that's how you enter. That's how you get your entries. And so the more comments that you drop each video, drop as many as you want, the better chance you have, because we're going to randomly pick a comment from the videos that we shoot up until the 1,000 subscriber. Okay, so once again, I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with us. Really happy with the progress of this car. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.